Hey guys, Pieguyrulz here, and Breadwinners is a new cartoon on Nickelodeon. And being a new cartoon on Nickelodeon, nobody really had high expectations for this show whatsoever. And when I say new cartoon, I mean, hey, this is actually a new show. It's not dependent on any other properties. It's not a spin-off, it's not a show that's been around for 10 years. It's something original. Kind of. I mean, the premise is pretty original. They're ducks that mine for bread, like you'd mine for gold, but they mine for bread, and then they go in their rocket car and deliver it to other ducks at a fast pace. Hey, I've heard worse premises for a cartoon, but the reason why this doesn't feel entirely original is because it's kind of like Fanboy and Chum Chum 2.0. It follows the model of cartoon where everything has to be super loud and super obnoxious. These characters cannot sit still for 5 seconds. They've always got to be talking about their butt or moving their butt or everything revolving around butts and being awesome and high fives and fist punches. It's like the show doesn't know what kids actually want to see in a cartoon, so it decided to just be really, really hyper. It's not the worst kind of show in the world, but it is very lazy writing. Rather than developing your characters and have them actually have personalities and jokes based upon that, they just go for the lowest common denominator stuff. Like, the characters sing a lot of songs and make a lot of butt jokes. They're not the worst things in the world. The songs are catchy, but they rely on that in nearly every episode to stretch out the time. Oh, and this show features a pet peeve of mine. For some reason, nearly every new cartoon that comes out has to have some sort of weird, live-action, photoshopped component to it. Uncle Grandpa has the realistic flying tiger. I mean, Gumball pretty much started it with their whole realistic backgrounds and stuff like that. And this has actual duck heads with animated eyeballs as the background ducks in the show. It just is kind of lazy and jarring and weird and unnecessary. I remember when a cartoon could just be all animation instead of having to rely on these cheap tricks. I mean, they're background ducks. They're not supposed to stand out. They're supposed to blend in with the background. And I guess when you do this, it means that you don't have to fully animate something, and you just have the head moving back and forth, kind of like I would do in one of these videos. But hey, I'm working on a YouTube time limit, one person with a very, very limited budget. I don't have a huge animation budget behind me to do all sorts of crazy things like they could. But that pet peeve aside, the show is just shallow. There's nothing to it. Cartoons have evolved, and this show really is just way too simple, in the worst possible ways. But to counter that with something positive, the show actually does take quite a lot from video game culture. There's references in pretty much every episode. There's pixel art, there's soundtracks that sound kind of 8-bit-ish, like Adventure Time. There's leveling up, and pretty much every episode, the characters literally level up. I mean, there's fight scenes that are staged as video games. They do mess with the motif, although I don't understand why it's here. It's a show about ducks and bread. The characters didn't even play any video games in any of the episodes that I saw. It's just kind of jarring that it's there, but I will say, as a style, it looks and sounds really good. I can tell there is a lot of imagination behind the show, but it just isn't put into the right places. The characters should be more developed, and the show should have more going for it than very, very basic, dull plots. I guess the problem here is that I'm trying to read too much into it. A good show, even a good kids show, should be something that anyone can appreciate, no matter their age. This show is something that is very explicitly meant for a target audience, and that target skews very, very young. If you're over a certain age, there's really nothing here for you. But again, it's nice to see Nickelodeon having something somewhat original that isn't absolutely awful. I'd probably put this up there with Sanjay and Craig for just kind of mediocre and immature. And honestly, that's about all I have to say. I know there wasn't much in this review, but honestly, there isn't much in the show. You know exactly what it's gonna be like from the opening theme song alone. Pieguyrulz, out.